Hello, and thank you for viewing my channel. I'm going to talk a little bit about this dx500v. This was a new out of the box, current year production, and I'll show you what I was able to pick apart on it. First of all, I made some changes here. I flipped the state of Texas upside down. This seems to be the way that's going to work for this unit to keep the heat from being trapped in the fins. It just makes logical sense. I don't know if anyone's ever done this. You know, who knows? But this is the way that I do things. So that's pretty much what it looks like there. It sets roughly like 23 millimeters up in the front and about 10 millimeters in the back. It looks pretty good because it's got the overhung edge on the bottom instead of the top up here where that overhang kind of like traps off the front. Don't know how to describe it, but so all I did was take a trip to the local hardware store where somebody wanted to try to charge me $25 for some rubber feet. Reading between the lines there. Got some rubber stoppers, cut them off, countersunk some holes down in them, put some 632s down in them, some flat washers, and found a sweet spot spacing and bolted them onto the bottom. Put flats and locks on them, some Loctite, so the nuts wouldn't eventually fall off inside. Now I got a nice slope base to it. So I think that's kind of a highlight. So all I had to do was just flip the meter upside down, flip the buttons on it, and I think that's going to work for me. I think this will give me a good starting point to work off on this amp. I'm sure it's going to make it pretty efficient with the thermal dissipation. So just a couple of things. This meter, when I went to take it out, I thought it was glued here on this bridge where this aluminum bridge comes across, but it actually wasn't glued at all. It was just stuck in by mechanical force. They actually beveled down the top edge of the meter here to try to shove it through, but eventually I was able to pry it out and just flip it upside down. I had to round out the aluminum front face here to get the meter in. That worked out pretty well. The front of it was separated and falling off. It was just really shoved together, and so I was able to fix some of that stuff up. The pot never had the rotation notch cut out on the front panel. It was just kind of butted up against and drawed up, so it was kind of like cockeyed, I guess you could say. So I drilled out the anti-rotation notch, which is just a little notch on the pot that sets through the front panel to keep the pot from spinning. Just moved the light bulb off the board. I just took some number 16, which was stripped back from some Teflon, and tinned it up so it's very stiff, and bent it up and put the bulb on that. I think that'll work out well. There's really nothing that can come loose here. It's extremely rigid. Once you tin that wire up, it's kind of like a piece of steel. The only other thing I found on it the other day was one of the bulbs weren't soldered. Didn't really surprise me because these bulb leads are kind of like, I don't know what's in them, but they don't take solder well at all. They're kind of like trying to solder nichrome, or like they got chromium in them, or just don't know. But that's something to look for. I replaced this cable back here because it was just too shoddy for me. This side was, you can see that there's like an iron chisel mark in it where they forcefully held the cable down to the board to try to solder it down, and pinched the cable pretty bad. It actually really wasn't even soldered. I could probably just yanked it off by hand because there was only a very, very small amount that was actually not even really adhered to the board. So I just pulled it off and put a new cable on it with a piece of RG316, I believe. Took the horrible wrap job off. You can kind of see if I can get this camera to try something here. Try turning that light off, see if that helps any. So you can see this is one of the original ones. I don't know how well the camera picks this up. So I got that looking a lot nicer. I'm kind of thinking about just going ahead and replacing this one as well. But I have to look into the properties of this RG316 a little bit more before I do that. This was the input cable, this is the output. You know, and there was another video on this that a guy did on YouTube that kind of sparked this one. I found the same exact thing that he did. There is a ground bus. It picks up pretty well. There was a ground bus soldered across here, which was probably like on a piece of number 16 Teflon, or actually I think it was 18 Teflon. And it was only stripped back probably 1/8 of an inch on each side. It wasn't soldered well. It would have certainly been a problem in a very short amount of time. So I took a piece of number 16 and stripped it back all but 1/2 inch on each side and bussed it that far across that surface area on both sides, as far as I could get it from one extreme to the other. So there's really no way that that can fail. This shield wasn't soldered down. It was just kind of laying there, so I tacked it on both sides. The power combiners were kind of a mess. This lead off the transformer output was only stripped back probably barely even 1/8 of an inch, and it was just kind of tacked on a big pile of solder with a very small pile of solder up on top. It wasn't pushed down to the board. It wasn't stripped back far enough. So I extended it across and got it nailed down. And when I did this cable here, there was really no board surface to solder to, so I'm kind of guessing that's why the guy had problems with this and was futzing with it, couldn't get it nailed down right. So all I simply did was strip the cable back properly and then just carried it across the path back there like 1/2 inch back. So there's virtually no way that that can come off. I redid the center conductor here because it was kind of shoddy. I checked all the cap head screws. They were all pretty good. One on the transistor was loose, but the rest of them are really torqued down pretty good. The biggest thing is right back to the old I squared R losses. Anytime you're dealing with high currents, you know, you can get fairly significant voltage drops and power losses. So that's usually always the first thing I go to on high current stuff. A little bit better, I don't know. Maybe this light will, maybe that light will help a little bit more. So this guy was soldered over here. He wasn't stripped back far enough. He wasn't wrapped around anything. So they had some number 16 bus wire, one layer feeding across these, and then that same number 16 bus wire going down onto the power connection. So I just took it off down there and then used that length to double this up across the fuse holder. So I just brought it back and wrapped it around in a figure 8 to increase the surface area of it. And then I just took 2 pieces of number 16 Teflon and ran down to replace the piece of bus wire that I had used up here. So that's all good. And then just did a heavy wrap and crimp on this one and soldered this guy down. Now the power cable was a real utter mess. It really truly was. The best way I see to really do that is kind of like this. I just cut it off and restripped it, shortened up the wire, of course, because it was all hacked up, and then just divvied the conductors up into two separate strandings, and twisted them up, and then just wove them in and out of these tabs. That way you get more surface area and less power drop. I think that worked out pretty well. The ground was just butted. Let's see if I can get this to... Might have to turn this light back off. Sometimes more light's better and sometimes it's not. Yeah, I guess I'm really not going to get any better than that. So this ground was just butted down and butt soldered at 90 degrees to the board. Eventually that would have broke off. There's no question about it. So I pulled this guy out, cut him off, and restripped him back, and then did the same thing. I divvied up the conductors into a pair of conductors and split it. Split half the conductors to this side and half of the conductors to this side. Flattened them down and fanned them out. That way you get a much greater surface area to solder to. So you should be able to see that's a pretty rigid ordeal right there. Much better than the straight down butt on soldering that we had. This 10 mic bypass cap was actually setting up here with the case almost on the pin of the SO239. Something about this camera isn't working for me again. So I moved this bypass cap over. It's a 10 mic. There wasn't one on this VCC line here. And, you know, I said just for the heck of it, I have some really good 10 mic low ESR caps that I had laying in a bin. And I was able to dig 2 of them out. Otherwise, I probably just wouldn't even have done this. So I tacked one of them on this one, and then just for symmetry's sakes, basically, tacked the other 10 mic here. Did that. This guy here is just really not even on there. I could have tore him off of there if I would have wanted to. So I kind of fanned him out a little bit and soldered him down on both sides. So there's a much greater area there to hold. There really wasn't much more. There was one other RF transformer where it was only stripped back probably not even 1/8 of an inch that I had to restrip and lay back. This guy here, the wrap job on this is just really horrible. I'm kind of thinking I'm just going to go ahead and replace this today because does it work? Yes, but I just don't like the looks of it. And if you don't like the looks of it, sometimes that affects how things work to you. So, I can't imagine I'm the only one that views things that way. I am probably the fussiest person you'll ever want to meet. So I'm thinking I'm just going to replace this cable and replace this cable to satisfy me. And that's really all I'm going to do for it at this point in time anyway. This unit apparently was dropped, I guess in the box or something. I don't know, because the back is bowed here, so obviously it must have took a hit on the fuse holders. Just thought I'd throw that in there. Tried to bend it back, but just really couldn't do it, and it really wasn't worth it, honestly. That's basically about it. Got a nice slope base to it. I like the way this thing turned out so far. So hey, I do appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot. Have yourself a wonderful day.